Hi, my name is Julisa Cunalata. I work at William H. Maxwell CTE High School. I've been there for about 26 years, and theater has been a huge part of what I'm able to give the kids. Well, I knew, I don't know why I knew, but in my heart, I had a feeling that we wouldn't be going back. So I just started just locking everything up because, things go missing. So I started locking everything up. I just remember that my last day was March 17th. And I went in only one of the three that we were required because I live in Teaneck. And so I was just supposed to be in quarantine. My entire town was supposed to be in quarantine. And I only, I went because I wanted my principal to see me. I wanted him to know that it wasn't a matter of me not wanting to be there or, not caring or wanting to be part of the training. It was a matter of Teaneck's in quarantine. I shouldn't be here. I'm not coming back. It's not worth getting on the bus, getting on the train. So whatever we can, have to do, I can do it through online resources, whatever platform you want me to use. I can't come back. And so, as I was leaving my classroom, I looked around, and you always have the posters, the books, and my room was really colorful, right? And to kind of have it in that summer mode because everything was put away, locked up, I just remember I took a picture and I was like, when will I see my classroom again? And okay, sorry. I'm a crier. I didn't tell you that one. Um, so it was tough. It was tough, the kids not knowing what was going to happen to them, to me, and it's a big part of one's life. I've been doing that for 26 years of my life, and I went 202 days without seeing a kid. And that's weird for me. So, it took some getting used to, right? Seeing the children. And in the beginning, they were so good. They were so good about putting on their camera and they wanted to see you. And it was just a matter of, buying some time because we were going to go back April 20th, right? And then when April 20th came and went and the announcement, was made that we wouldn't be going back for the rest of the school year, it was surreal. I was in my kitchen with my husband and, I just kind of froze because I heard the news flash coming on and the words, won't be returning this year. I was like, yeah. And again, what about the kids? And that's the only thing I remember saying to my husband, kind of standing there, because he didn't understand why I started crying. And I was like, baby, the kids, what's going to happen to the kids? And because, mine are high school, I can't even imagine the little ones, but with mine, I know what they were going through because I was with them every single day. I realized that I had children in those classrooms, in those virtual classrooms, just waiting for me, waiting. And the minute, I logged on, it was just like, hi, miss, how are you? And like everything that they wanted to say or had been keeping in, they knew that they could say to me. And so hearing the announcement that we weren't going back, I had been working on a website, on an extra class for them because I was like, all right, if we're not going back, you can't sit on your couch and play games. You can't. You have got to do something with yourself. And so I challenged them, right? And that's what I called it, right? Challenge yourself. That was the extra class I was giving them. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give you a little less work during my class because you're overwhelmed already. And we have to do this till June. And I would rather you do something that kind of gives you some sort of feeling of accomplishment or somehow improving yourself, right? So I gave them links for everything from exercise to eating to reading. Audible had free books out then. And, I gave them, there were some theater links that I had gotten from like the various people that I work with. And I was just like, guys, please, I would rather you check out that, production online. Don't worry about it. I'll give you credit for the homework. It's good. It's good as long as you're doing something. I can totally justify that. I'm not even concerned with that. It was a matter of getting them through this and making it seem like a learning opportunity, and not just, well, I'm stuck in my house, I'm afraid to leave, because that's what some of them said to me. One little girl, she was like, miss, I'm not leaving my house. And I'm like, well, good, because you're not supposed to. She goes, no, I won't go to the supermarket. I won't go anywhere. And I'm like, well, shouldn't you go with your parents, or maybe help a little, get some fresh air? She goes, no, my father goes, gets me what I need, and he comes back. I was like, well, that's not fair. How old's your dad? She's like, he's 50 and he's strong. I'm like, it was just, it was such an interesting array, I guess, of reactions from the children. We had children really, really scared. I had one little girl, she was in her room when she turned on her camera, and I'm like, sweetie, why do you have your mask on? If you're in your room, I don't understand. She's like, miss, I'm asymptomatic and my family's scared. And they don't let me out of my room. They bring me my food. I have to keep my mask on, and I just stay in my room all day. So, the minute she got into my class, it was her chance to speak to, Nayeli and Rose, and she wanted to participate so much, and I hadn't realized why. She wasn't speaking to anyone except for us, and so it was like, sweetie, so what have you been doing? And we just kind of interacted with her, and of course we did our work, but it was more of a matter of kind of keeping her going, because one of her friends actually confided with me. And so she was really scared. And we were trying to tell her, no, you're not going to die. If anything, you're asymptomatic, you're fine. But she was truly afraid that she was going to die. And so school kind of just became, the one place where she was safe, even if it was virtually, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I guess as an adult, right? Things have come your way. I'm 51 years old, right? So things have come your way. Life doesn't always go as you plan it, right? And you kind of learn to just go with the flow and dodge whatever is in your way. But as a kid, I mean, you're just learning about who you are and about what the world is like and who your friends really are. And the biggest concern that they have is, is she my acquaintance or is she my friend? This is the conversation we hear over and over. And then suddenly their worlds became something else. It became a matter of, and I don't want to exaggerate, but it was a matter of survival for a second there. And this is something that they were not accustomed to. They, you know, their every day was, what am I wearing to school? Which homework am I going to do? And which friend am I talking to, and which boy do I like, or which girl do I like, and then suddenly it became, I can't leave my house. I won't see my friends, acquaintance or not. And I have to keep myself safe, because keeping myself safe means keeping my family safe. And to hear them, right? And the thing is, every single time a new child came on, because you would have like a class of 34. It sounds crazy, but I would sometimes have 4 kids, and sometimes I would have 15, but I never had 34. And so, for me, it was just like, where are the rest of my kids? What is going on? Not to say they didn't cut my class, they cut my class, they're high schoolers. But in during those months, right, in that moment, it wasn't about, they're cutting my class and they're being foolish and they're playing games or they're sleeping. It was just, where are they and are they okay? So every time someone popped up new, right, you could see the names in the chat. It was always just like, guys, hold on a second. So and so just popped up. Sweetheart, are you okay? I'm not even asking you, why or where have you been, or why haven't you done your homework? I'm asking you, are you okay? And they're like, yes, miss. Is your family okay? Yes, miss. I'm like, okay, so you were just being a bum and not bothering to log in? Yes, miss. Okay, we're good. No problem. I can forgive you that. I just need to make sure that you are well. And so that's what it became. Every day was like a check-in. Are you okay? All right. Especially, it was a name that I just saw for the first time after weeks, months. And the fear that, are my kids okay? Because, yes, doesn't, necessarily attack younger people, but, we didn't know what was real or accurate, and the news seemed to change every day. And yes, it didn't, take little ones, but what if my high schoolers suddenly, were ill? So it could happen, right? And so I guess that was it. It was a daily check-in, making sure you're okay. And suddenly, how are you took on a whole new meaning, a new, more depth. And it was just like, I really want to know, are you okay? The concern is always the kids, and it was a matter of not only checking in emotionally, making sure they were all right, but they had to somehow, because I remember in the beginning, we didn't know what was going to happen with the regents. Would it be online or what exactly was going to happen? So we still needed to prep them, for their state exams because I was teaching sophomores, and so sophomores take the regents. I was also teaching an AP course. What was going to happen with the AP exam? I mean, these kids had worked really, really hard all year, and then, would that even happen? And so we had to keep prepping them. And unfortunately, I'm 51, and I say this all the time to my kids. I was like, guys, you have to help me. If I'm not sharing, tell me I'm not sharing. My screen. You've got, and it's not because I don't know how. It's sometimes because you're just not used to it, right? Suddenly it became a matter of managing the three different platforms and two documents this way and the chat over here and the stream this way and the child who can't get in. And I was like, guys, you've got to help me. If I'm just like over here and you're not, can you tell me this? And so we had to definitely support them, technically, believe it or not. We had to support them technically. I'm older, I'm not of their generation. They could do this stuff in their sleep, but there were kids who were just like, Miss, I don't know how to attach my assignment. What do you mean? And I was like, well, yeah, you can TikTok to death, but that doesn't necessarily transfer to trying to get these things done online. And they're like, Miss, what do you mean? You want me to annotate onto the PDF or make a copy of it? And it was just like a totally, different side of their world, right? That they knew was out there and they knew it existed, but we had never used it, right? And so even myself, yeah, Google Classroom was available years ago. I didn't have to use it. I'm much better live. This is what I tell my kids all the time. I was just like, I am so much more fun live. But so trying to get that energy across to them and hoping that it's received. And thank goodness that they already had a rapport with me, right? Because we'd been together since September. And so that really helped because they knew who I was. They knew that I cared. They knew that, they needed to do their work. Otherwise, I was going to call their homes. But now I think this is even harder. I don't know these children. I don't know them. They're dots. They're dots on the screen with their first initial. So JSR or whatever, they're in class. I don't know what they look like. And they don't know me. They know me maybe from the hallway, if that, because they're sophomores now, which means they were freshmen last year. I didn't have them. And and so we have to do so much more in terms of trying to connect with them, and speaking with my colleagues, it was like, my God, what are we going to do? It was just like, how do I connect with this child? And so it's always a matter of referring to especially now, I have to talk to last year's freshman teacher. I was like, can you tell me something about this kid? Because he seems, very, very much on the ball and he wants to participate, but I've gotten nothing from him. How do I connect? Is it, do I connect one-on-one, or do I have to call mom? Is that the only way he does anything? And so, actually during the quarantine, because we missed that contact too, right? We had every Friday pretty much, or every other Friday, with my English teachers and one of our social studies buddies, and we would just kind of sit there, glass of wine, and it was just like, all right, what did we do wrong this week? you know, and how can we fix it for next week? And what was your aha moment, and what did you get from that? And especially, if we encountered something that really worked, it was like, okay, try this, do this. It really helped with the kids, and just trying to figure out, because we've never done this before, suddenly, as a senior teacher, a veteran teacher of what, 26 years, I felt like a newbie. I felt like a newbie. I hadn't felt that lost since 1994 when I didn't know where I was coming or going, and trying to finish my master's at the same time that I was trying to be a first year teacher. That's how overwhelming it was. And then, just add global pandemic on top of that. And then obviously trying to be the adult and not crying and not breaking down and being the positive one for the children who were just scared. Honestly, we need things to go back to normal. And it's so hard because we had a couple of children, right? We just started October 1st, right? And so a couple of kids came in, but we have about 400 kids, and although about 240 are officially remote, we have a lot of the children who kind of went to default blended, but they really wanted to be remote. And so it gets complicated. And what we had in physically in the building on Thursday were, I think we had 30 kids, and on Friday we had 35. And right now, because so many teachers have their medical accommodations also, our staff is about 50% right now. So we have about 19 teachers, 35 children, a lot of paras, and many children working remote, and the paraprofessional in the building. It is just very, very tough. And I know what they want is normal, because one of my boys, right, he came by, and it broke my heart, because usually not for anything, the first day of class is the best, because you get to see last year's freshmen, last year's sophomores. Suddenly, especially with the boys, the girls, they change a little bit, but the boys, they come back and their voices are really deep, and they were shorter than you, and then suddenly they're taller, and I hate when that happens, and because I'm only 5 foot tall, right? And so, I love it when I've got little ones. It's like, oh yes, somebody shorter than I am. And then of course they come back after the summer, and they're just huge. But so Chris came in, and usually, again, the first day of class, it's a matter of hugging. We hug. Yeah, you're not supposed to hug children. I'm sorry, we hug. Especially those kids who need that hug, right? You know who they are. And so Chris, he just kind of stood there at my door. What would have normally been like, oh my God, sweetheart, how are you? How'd your summer go? What'd you do? There was no point in asking any of that. It was just, are you okay? Are your parents okay? Because he wasn't in my class. And see, that's another thing. The children who were not on my roster in the spring, I just didn't know anything about them. So you're talking some of my favorite kids. I had, really no way of contacting them without like maybe texting them if I had their personal number for whatever reason, but that's like rare. So Chris comes into my room, and he just opens up his arms, and I was like, sweetie, I can't, and then he got too close to me, and I didn't have my mask on, and I'm like, sweetie, hold on, because I was alone in the room. So I ran back to my desk. I got my mask. I, measured eyeballed it, the 6 feet. And I was like, sweetheart, okay. I was like, sweetheart, I don't mean to be rude. I go, but I need to stay 6 feet from you. He's like, I know, miss, I know. I go, how was it? And he just looked at me and goes, miss, what is this? And I was like, why? What happened? And then he goes, I was one of two in one class. The other one I was alone. He goes, none of my friends are here. The two people that I kind of hang with that are here, I didn't have lunch with them. And miss, have you seen the cafeteria? I'm like, and I was told stay away from the cafeteria, because they might try to pull us in and make us do duty while the children don't have the masks on. So union rep said stay away from the cafeteria, so I stayed away. Anyway, so and I asked them, I was like, so yeah, what's going on in the cafeteria? He's like, miss, he goes, they're just, those single desks, the attached desk and chair, just spread out 6 feet apart. The entire cafeteria is just set up that way. You have to sit by yourself, and then he goes, and then the food's not even hot. And that kind of touched like a totally different side, because he wanted a hot meal, and sometimes not for anything. Our kids, especially where I am, a hot meal is a big deal, right? And so, he said, he goes, miss, he goes, and the food was in a cooler, and I had to go get my own bag, and then I sat by myself, and I took off my mask, and I didn't speak to anyone because I didn't know anyone. And he goes, and then that's it. And he goes, and now I'm here again. He goes, and I'm going to a class that I'm sure I'll be the only one. And so he was coming back to school looking for that normal, and he wasn't able to find it. And then one other little girl that I don't even know, because remember, she was a freshman last year, sophomore this year, brand new to me. She kind of broke my heart, but for a different reason. She had a notebook, and she was ready. She had her laptop and everything, but she had a notebook too, because she was trying to find some normal. She didn't just want to look at the screen. She was like, miss, give me some notes, give me something. Obviously she didn't say that, but she was so prepared to learn and to somehow get back into some sort of groove of what school is supposed to be. And then I was like, oh my God, I was like, suddenly I was like, this child needs notes. Let me find her some notes, because everything was, how do I say this nicely? We are not prepared. We're still not prepared, right? We are so, I'm supposed to be 3 people. So that's pretty much the way it works, right? There's supposed to be the blended remote teacher who's handling the chat, making sure the kids have their questions answered in the chat, the children that are home. There's supposed to be a remote teacher kind of taking care of those children, and then I'm on site live, right? And so in that class, I was by myself. And so I was trying to manage the chat at home, right? Even though the union told us not to do it and we don't have to, I can't exactly ignore the children at home for, 5 days out of every 2 weeks. It doesn't seem right. So whatever. So while trying not to ignore the children in the chat, while trying to build some sort of rapport with the children who are brand new to me here, I was suddenly concerned with this little girl has her notebook and I want her to put something in it. Because, I just kind of pretty much prepared a remote lesson because I knew most of my kids were home. And so we were kind of working that way and giving her like the additional support that she needed live. But she wanted school the way it was always done. And I couldn't give that to her because I've got tape on my floor also, right? So the colored tape and measured 6 feet, so the children stay safe. And I just pretty much said, in the beginning of class, I was like, hi guys, I'm Miss Cunalata. Do not worry, you are okay. We've got hand sanitizer galore. We have some alcohol. You're going to clean down the computers that you use. And as long as you stay in your little square, you're 6 feet away from your fellow students. So just make sure you are. And then to see that second of panic when the children looked down to make sure that they were in the little square that I had marked with tape, I was just like, wow, okay, now I think I made it worse. Now they're panicking. Am I in a little safe square? But anyway, so they need normal, and there's nothing about this that's normal. So, well, I already had, Will, right, from Teenwrights reach out to me. And I was just so grateful to hear that he was okay. And I thought about him during all of this. And I know he's willing to help. And I don't even know if Teenwrights knows how they're going to do this, virtually, because it's tough. To get children to stay after school is tough for anything, but to get them to log on and show up when they might be napping, this is going to be like a whole new thing. And I'm not sure if we've quite figured it out. But just the fact that, Will contacted me and that it's going to happen, that helps right there, right? Because my kids, not for anything, they're used to me, trying to give them like some sort of trip, some experience. They may not always take me up on the offer, but they know it's there. And I'm always just like, guys, there's a new contest. They're here, do this, do that. This is free. Go here, sign up. Because their parents aren't necessarily well informed. I mean, we had children show up before October 1st because the parents didn't listen to the news. And so we had children there when they weren't supposed to be there. And I'm like, guys, school doesn't start till October 1st. Didn't you watch the news? And they're like, oh, my parents just said I needed to come. And I'm like, oh, Lord. So, these opportunities aren't necessarily readily available unless others provide it, right? And I know I've had other people, reach out. And again, I've worked with like different theater groups. I've been doing that for a good, I want to say over a decade. I was trying to like put a number on it and I don't even remember. It just seems like I've always been doing that. And so through there, I met Amy, and through Amy, I met Will, and my name kind of just gets thrown out there, and I'm so grateful. I'm just like, yes, me, yeah. And pretty much anyone who contacts me is like, do you want the? They don't even have to finish the sentence. I'm like, yes, yes. They're like, but you don't even know what I'm offering. I was like, is it for the children? Yes, I want it. Is it free? Even better. Cool, I want it. And so whatever others are willing to give, trust me, there's a teacher willing to use it. There are a lot of people who are tired. I mean, in terms of like the profession, there are people who just, they'll give you from 8 to 2:30 and they're done and they're home and that's that. But then there's some, I think, at least an equal amount of people like me who will give up their Saturday, will, take on the hassle of organizing a trip because it's not easy. It's not, and take that opportunity for the children. Because, I mean, theater, what is it? It is, a window, a chance to see someone else's world And I always think about Daniel's husband. I hope that's the title. Daniel's husband was something that we were, privileged enough to see at primary stages. Now, all of that was because of Malcolm, right? So he's one of my favorite boys, and obviously openly gay, and I just love him, right? And I wanted him to see himself reflected on the stage. And the only way I could do that was organizing this trip. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it for Malcolm. Fine. So got everything, got the permission slips, took about 25 kids, I believe. And I took a couple of knuckleheads too, to be honest with you, really immature young men that I was pretty afraid that they might say something inappropriate or do something to embarrass us as a school or to make Malcolm feel, less worthy somehow. And so, I was taking a chance, but at the same time, it's that kid that needs the exposure, right? So we went, and it was amazing. I cried. I'm a crier, but I cried. And so afterwards, I spoke to, the really immature ones I was worried about. And I told them, I was like, I'm so proud of you. You acted appropriately and you took it seriously. And it looks like you really understood what the play was about. And then he says, Miss, you said the play was about a gay marriage. And I was like, it was. He's like, Miss, that was just about love. And that was it. It was worth every second of aggravation, between the parents, the letters, the principal getting the okay, the train, the rain, and getting there. It was worth it because that's one kid who somehow has had his eyes open to someone else's experience and who's a little bit more accepting. And again, that couldn't have happened unless someone else was willing to give us that opportunity. I can't afford to pay for 30 tickets to take children to go see shows, but I'll totally organize it and go for free. I will. Anything for my kids, anything. When they offered it, I was absolutely on board, and I just started talking to all my kids. I was like, guys, playwriting, creative writing, not, Regents writing, creative writing. I was like, how could you not be interested? And again, I think all English teachers are secretly writers, right? I know as a kid, I would have given anything for that opportunity to have an agency come in and provide an absolutely free program with two teaching artists and actors that would come in every now and then to work with them, and they've never done any of these theater exercises. They've never been in a theater program before. And so Teenwrights for them was just like so out of the ordinary, because I am goofy, but I would never start with the whole breathing and the whatever that thing, zip zap thing is. It's not my strength. That's how come I was not a very good elementary school assistant teacher back in the day. That's not who I am. I don't do itsy bitsy spider. Um, but theater, wow, theater, that's something that is huge in my life, huge. And I try to go as often as possible. And so bringing that to the children, especially those kids, you can tell, like the secret writers, the ones who you ask for a page and they give you 6 and you're like, well, thank you, sweetheart, thanks for the 6 pages, in addition to the other 140 that I have to look at. But you always spend more time on those kids because they really just want to express themselves. And so Teenwrights at our school was pretty awesome. And thank God I have the husband that I have. He made up playbills for me. He did a little video for me. And because he's also a graphic designer, he made these like really cool like posters of a playbill. I put them up in the auditorium, and I put the kids in front of it, and so they really got to feel like writers. And just watching them, that process of writing, where they thought, like all writers think, right? They thought that first draft was pretty good. And then to watch them, through obviously, Will's, oh my God, he's so good with them. And Christiane too, and the way, they kind of walk them through. It's like, well, yes, that works, but, have you thought about, and just so sweetly kind of moving them toward a better, version of the story that they wrote. And then when you see them on day of, right, the day when the actual actors come in and do and perform their pieces, that they're on the actual day of the performance, yeah, that's magic. It's magic. Shamisa especially, she wants to be a writer, right? And so to watch her see, these actors bring her words to life and make her feel validated. Sorry. And Teenwrights, it gives them that validation, right? Where she knows she can totally walk into a college classroom where she's revised and edited her work and watched her work be produced, and she has a voice. And Teenwrights kind of gives all of the kids that. Oh, and even my little Javon, like his how can I say this? He's got a, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a YouTube channel, and he does like inspirational talks. And he wrote this whole play about just inspiring, himself to be a better person, and how he was going to break up a fight between these two people because he was going to somehow, uh, I don't know, it was interesting. And, he may not be the strongest writer, but he's got a message, right? And so the same message that he does in his YouTube videos, he kind of put into his play, where it's all about just be a better version of yourself. And he got to see that performed. And I have also my Rose, she's an ESL student. She decided to join Teenwrights. And I was a little worried because I was like, I don't know, I don't know what kind of, piece of writing that we can get that would be something that could be performed, because, she struggles, but she came up with some, love triangle drama thing, and those actors brought it to life. And when I saw the actors on stage and how seriously they take, these young playwrights and the work that they've, managed to put together, that touches me too. That the actors, there isn't an, I can't pay for that. I can't provide that, right? You guys can. I'll be here. I've been doing this for 26 years, and I don't think my commitment is any different from day one. I've always been here for the kids. It's always been about them. It's never been about me. What I want for them is the world that they create. They need to create a better version. And I want to be here for them to help them do that. I want them to realize that, yes, there are differences, right? There are differences from one person to the other, from one race to the other. With everything that's happened in this world and that's happened during this pandemic, I want them to realize that they have the power to change that, either through their words, right? And especially through their words, through their actions. And I always try to promote, change. I always tell them, I was just like, you don't like the world you live in? Go, change it. I was like, that's your job. I can't do that. I can do it to a point, but I'm like 51. And I always tell them, I was like, I'll be around for another 20 years. I'll go to my protests. I'll do what I have to do. But what are you doing? What are you doing? Because you need to change this. You need to make it the world that you want it to be. If I can help you do that, great. But really, in the end, it's up to you. I need you to make the world that you want to live in. It's that simple. In terms of primary stages, the opportunity to obviously take the children, I'll take them to see just about anything, I will. But the difference between children seeing, yet another version of Pride and Prejudice or Little Women, wonderful, right? But them seeing themselves, right? A little piece of them. I think it's really important that children see themselves reflected on stage, right? And Feeding the Dragon certainly did that. In terms of my LGBTQ population, Daniel's husband certainly did that. And the fact that Little Women, right? There were minorities playing characters on stage that aren't normally played by minorities. I think that's important. And my children are 85% African American and about 10% Latino, right? And so representation matters. It matters now more than ever. I mean, I won't forget, and I don't know whether or not I should plug Lin Manuel, but Lin Manuel Miranda did something for me and my generation that needed to be done. When I saw In the Heights, I knew. I was like, that's going to change the world. That right there, because suddenly I saw myself on the stage, and of course I dragged students to, I saw it 5 times because I took children on 3 separate occasions. I took every, I think, family member I have, but theater and representation is everything. And how else can we kind of incorporate ourselves into this world if we don't see ourselves in all aspects of it? I think that's important.